Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's August 24th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And here's a look at our daily chart. You can see that we bounced some today. We're really stuck between this purple line here is the same thing as the 21 EMA on this larger chart. So we're bouncing between this ribbon and the 21 EMA there. Um, these other ribbons are not based on an EMA, so don't get confused on that. Just the center one is based on the 21 bar EMA. The rest of them are based on, uh, it's really proprietary, so I'm not going to really say what it's based on. Um, but anyway, we're bouncing between that. We're still closing below that EMA, and so that's not good for bullish, although that's a bullish reversal looking bar. We could bounce here. If this bar does not get through that EMA and close above it, I would expect we may turn lower again. So we'll just have to see. We were a little overdone here. This moved down pretty quickly for such an overbought market. So not surprising that maybe we take a cooler here for a couple of days before heading on lower again. I mean, we could bounce some here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't turn lower again. So we'll just have to see. But let's flip over to the intraday chart, the 2000 tick chart. We'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. And here's our chart for the day. And you can see it was mostly still kind of a sideways day. We trended up. I mean, even though we were all inside this range here, we were trending higher this whole time. And then we trended back into the range and we bounced out again. We actually closed up. Here's the close from yesterday, this red dash line right below the yellow line there. I don't know if you can see that or not. But we closed 20 points above that at least. So we closed up today. So, and that was evident on the daily chart. You could see it was kind of looked like a reversal day. So we could go higher here. We couldn't even get a measured move on the breakout though, even though we trended a good bit higher here. We never got a measured move there. So anyway, we'll just have to see what tomorrow brings. But you can see today, and there's possibly I never tried to draw it. There may be some kind of trend here. I don't know if you can get a trend or not here. Maybe you can. Maybe it's something like that. I mean, maybe you get one. I don't think it helps you. I think you're better off to play the range because you get the break. If you use this, you get the break way down right in here. It just doesn't. I mean, this is more sideways. You can see we're back and forth above and below the EMA until we get a little bit of a rally here on the breakout. You always expect most breakouts to fail. The key on a breakout is the timing when it actually fails. So it didn't look like it was going to fail here and until way up here. And so you got to be real careful. There's a reason I marked this short. We'll talk about it when we get there. But normally you don't want to try to pick tops here. And if you're not really skilled at reading the chart and been profitable for a while, you probably wouldn't want to take any trade like that at all. You'd want to wait till it was a sure thing we were going lower again. And if you didn't go short there, you really didn't get another opportunity. So, but let's zoom in here. And we'll go through these trades. It won't take long. There's not a lot of really good trades today. There were a few green ones in there, but generally you want to take the red or blue trades. So, but anyway, we had this trend working up. We got an overshoot, so you'd expect a break at least, and you may get a reversal. And we bounced here and went higher. So you do get the break. And there's actually, I didn't draw it, but there's actually, because this is mostly congested, but there's actually a little downtrend there. And you see we got a close outside new low, and then we went higher again. So when we ran up here. That's still the retest on this most likely. So I usually don't draw the trend lines on the retest. But we made that high. We went lower. We tried to go higher again. And this actually breaks one tick higher. It's really difficult to see there, but this breaks one tick higher and fails. Being that far away from the EMA on a mostly sideways, I like taking that trade. You could actually trade that on the engulfing, but I think I'd wait for it to close, and if it breaks lower, I'd go with it, and which it did. And then we come down here, we get a close outside, first entry, and then try to go higher. So when it breaks lower there, you get a second entry short when we're looking for a new low, and you would expect prices at least go back to the midline there. And that's what happens. They run down the midline. They actually break lower here, but you don't really get a chance to trade this until here where you get a failure. And I mark that green because this is not really where you're looking for a failure, but there's clearly a trend channel working up, and you can see the new low, and you get a first entry, and you push through, and you pull back, and you break higher there. So maybe you take that trade. I'm not crazy about it. I think you're better off to wait. And then we're just chopping along here. Kind of the same thing. You get a little triple test here. There's not a big clear move up and then back down. So this really looks like all one test. But you might take that one. And then you could argue this is a triple test, but we made a new low each time here, although we did make a new high here. So there's clearly two legs down. So this is a second entry long on a failed break lower. And there's a little room back to the EMA. So maybe you take that one too. I'm not, like I said, I'm not crazy about any of them. We run back up here and you break out. And I didn't mark this one, but you could have taken this one too because it's the second entry. I should have at least marked it green. But this market was acting like it really wants to go higher here. It wasn't acting like it was going to go low because we had the failed breakout here. So usually that'll lead to, if we're going to break out successfully, you'd expect, hey, prices could break out the top here. And that's what happens. This would have, I mean, you would have got a scalp out of that, but I would wait and see if you get something that comes out that takes a short that gives you a nice bearish bar off the inside of the channel here. And you just don't get that. In fact, it bounces again and breaks out and pulls back. And again, I'm not crazy about this one either, but it's pretty obvious here prices are probably running back to the highs and testing them again. So you may take that trade. It's a little aggressive. I marked it green, but it's a little aggressive, and you got to be careful doing this stuff because you get all chopped up here. So again, I'm not crazy about any of those trades. And we do run up. You get this channel working up. You get a close outside, move to a new high, and you get a second entry short right there on the new high. And you'd expect prices to break out there and fail that far away from the EMA. So I like that trade. Sometimes you want to wait on a lower high here, which you get right here, but you still got to contend with this smaller channel here, and there's not a whole lot of room there, and you don't know that you're gonna be able to scalp out of that. So but it does break higher and turn down, so you could trade that as an engulfing bar. So maybe that gives you a little more room back to the EMA. I don't know if I'd take it at all if I had to go short one tick below that, unless there's enough room to scalp out, which I didn't measure it, so I don't know if it is or not. But then we fell out the bottom. You don't really get a good signal bar to go long, and I'd be afraid to go long here because of the bigger pattern. It could easily come back and test that breakout area and turn down. It doesn't. It runs up here, and it actually makes a triple test, but you don't get a setup. Let me zoom in here a little more. This is kind of hard to see. You don't get a setup because that's just an inside bar, and this is really your signal bar. So unfortunately, you don't get a chance to enter that one. It runs on down. There's a little breakout pullback. You don't want to take that. You run on down. Then you get a close outside. It tries to make a new low. Runs higher. Pulls back again. This really looks like a double bottom. You might say, hey, there's a failure here, but we closed outside this little micro channel here. And so for that reason, that's not really a spot you would look for a reversal. I mean, you could say, okay, it's just a failed second entry, so it's probably going to trap people. But you see it doesn't. Look how long it takes before it really, I mean, maybe there's enough room to get out, but it doesn't. You can tell that that's not a place where you're going to trap a lot of people. So you don't want to trade that as a trap, really, because we're just back and forth, and you'll get chopped up doing this stuff. So be real careful. We're just going along. You do get a fairly decent bar here that maybe you trade this to the long side. There's plenty of room to get out. Again, I didn't mark it, but maybe you take it. The real problem is you got the resistance right here, and we keep trying to push through it and we can't. So you don't know which way is going to win out here, and this could easily break higher a tick or two and then turn straight down on you. You wouldn't have this green channel yet, so um, it wouldn't get confirmed until here. And then really, I don't know if I would call that confirmed there or not. I'd probably wait for another touch, and that doesn't come till way up here. So, um, but maybe you take that trade. And this one, you could even argue for this one because then you could say, hey, there's a triple test there. And that's a pretty good bar, but it's not a great bar. So once again, you know, it's another green one maybe. And can't go long in here. And so this breaks out. No setup to even trade it on the breakout. And then we're just kind of chopping sideways. I didn't draw it, but there's a little just another little congestion range type area, and I just don't see any reason to go short here or long. You would expect prices to come back to here, but I don't think I'm going to go short here with that new high. You might say, hey, that's a triple test, but with that making that much of a new high, it could easily turn down and turn back up on you again. So, and you can see it doesn't get back down to the lows here, and you try to go lower pretty much 3 times. The problem with this one is you're going long right into it. You might trade that as an engulfing bar. I actually think it broke higher and then turned down and then went back up. I can't remember for certain. Um, I mean, I marked it just because it's 3 trips to go lower. If you could get in this and have enough room to get out before those highs, maybe you take it. I don't even, I really don't even like it green, especially when you consider the resistance across there. Um, and of course, it runs on up, and again, you don't really get a chance to enter this. I mean, prices should be trying to come back to this trend line, and that's the problem here. It does keep going higher. I wouldn't be looking for shorts yet. Um, Again, you got another look here it's still closing inside and it's fairly bullish, but you can see how many times we turned down across there. It's just another little congested area, and I would not risk it to the upside. But when you get that, you easily test it 3 times, then you got a lower high and it closes outside. If it breaks, the key here is it did make this inside bar, but so I don't think I would trade it on this bar, but this broke higher first and turned down, and when it went out the other side, maybe you trade that as an engulfing bar because you probably got them trapped up here, and the key is you'll at a very minimum you might expect a measured move like that right there, and you can see that's pretty much where it went to and found support before it finally broke on lower. So, and I'm guessing that's what most people were looking for. They probably traded this short and they were taking their profits here because that was where the measured move was. So it's kind of convoluted. I went back and forth whether I should mark that green or red. I had a couple of them like that today. Uh, but trying to go the higher that many times, you should get another leg down. And we're probably overdue for a break of the channel here, the green channel. And it's also possible this is an overshoot. It fits pretty good that way, but at one time I had it like this, and so it somewhat looks like a possible overshoot. And you can see that would explain why we bounced right up through there, and that would also explain why we found resistance right there. So it's really hard to say. I'm just kind of guessing at it, but I really think that's what you have right there with an overshoot, and then it reverses. Market got a little ahead of itself right here, and then suddenly look at it, boom, people realize, hey, we got a little overzealous there, and that would lead you to like this trade a lot more too. So at that point, I still probably wouldn't take that inside bar But if it would have broke below that bar, I probably would have gone short with it too. So a couple of different ways to look at it, and then the bottom just falls out of this thing. If you don't get in there, there's really no chance to get in it. You get a slight correction here, then the bottom falls out again, and then you're just kind of chopping along. That's just a first entry right there, kind of an inside bar. We finally break out here and get a close outside, and notice you got a double bottom, so you run up and you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry right there. That signal bar is not perfect, but the fact that you're back inside that range and you tested it right there a couple of times, and you're still looking for a new low there, you might take that on a lower high. It's a little congested looking. I marked it green. I think you should wait on a lower high, and you don't get one. The bottom just falls out of it. We'll make the new low, and now we're bouncing up. I don't see anything that makes me want to go long here. And notice we get back up here, and we get a close outside on this green channel, move to a new high, and then a lower high. And this actually breaks higher and turns down. Maybe you go short. You could call that a triple test too. 1, 2, 3. So maybe you trade that on the engulfing bar, but I'd probably wait and go short one tick below it there. And then we run down and you get another first entry, and then it bounces here. So, of course, notice the khaki colored channel with the close outside. And there's actually two legs up there, and he turns down and makes a new low, and then it bounces. But I like going long here just simply because it's a triple test. And this is played out, and this market keeps acting like it wants to go higher. So you would expect to at least be able to ride that back to the EMA there. And instead it just takes off. Turns out to be a pretty good trade. And runs up, and there's no other chance to enter this really. You get a close outside, and that takes you into 230. So just not a lot of good trades today. We've had a couple of good days there, and suddenly we get one that's not so great here. I mean, there's still a chance to find you 2 or 3 good trades, but you got to be really picky, and there's probably some more green ones you could argue for in there. So if you see something and I didn't mark it, don't make maybe it looked a little better on your chart. Maybe you just saw it slightly different. There's always probably you could argue for a few greens, but I don't see anything else in here that I consider to be blue or red, and that's the real key that we're looking for. So our goal is to find 2 or 3 really good trades each day and take those and sit and watch everything else. And it takes a lot of discipline. But if you get to that point and you can do it, and you can read this chart, and you can pick out the best 2 or 3 every day and get your win percent up there, it's easier to get up there than you think it is, and that's when you suddenly will start making money. So that should be your goal. Your goal should be to make money, not take trades. So I have to remind people of that, because people are always wanting to trade. The thrill of a trade. They're looking for a trade on every swing, every entry, and that's not how you do this. Your goal should be to make money. And in order to make money, you got to make sure you don't lose a lot of money either. So you need to be very picky on your trade choices. At one time I thought you had to take every trade you saw. You couldn't cherry pick. You couldn't pick and choose. But I've learned that you can get good enough at this that you can pick and choose, and you'll be a lot better off. You can reduce your losses considerably and improve your wins considerably at the same time. So, I mean, they're offsetting. So obviously if you can improve one, you have to improve the other with it. So, but just cutting your losses. That's where most people will improve their trading quicker than anything, is just by not taking bad trades anymore, and just making sure you don't take any losses that are just pure because you had to take a trade because you got bored or antsy and couldn't sit there any longer, and you saw something you thought you saw, and you forced a trade, and then you go, I knew I shouldn't have taken that trade. Wait on the sure things, and you'll improve your trading a lot. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll wrap up our week tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you